Good morning and welcome to the dialogue. This is the dialogue. My name is Simapolo and we go down to look at issues that made headlines through the week. Welcome aboard and welcome back from Masaka Evangelical Conference organized by House of Prayer Ministries International. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you so much for being part of that big conference. And as usual, in the studios, Richard Baguma Tinkasimire, communication specialist and an advocate for proper nutrition, is here with us. Welcome again, Dr. Ssemwogerere Wanzara, the head of research and civic engagement at Africa Leadership Institute, an NGO that does oversight on parliament and other government bodies. My name is Prince Apollo. Welcome once again to this newest edition of the dialogue, looking at major events. Very busy week. We kicked off the week with the M10 marathon. There were questions around those crowds, but anyway, we also saw drama at the burial of the former President General for the Democratic Party, who died last week and was buried on Monday. Government or the state, against the will of the widow, accorded Dr. Ssemwogerere an official burial, 17 gun salute, and possibly we will have comments from the panelists on that matter. And again, we can cross the borders looking at the fighting that has resumed in the DRC between the M23 rebels and the government troops. On Friday, fighting resumed despite a ceasefire agreement that was reached or that was agreed on Wednesday in Rwanda, Angola. And as we speak, military sources indicate that M23 is reinforcing its positions with more fighters, more weapons, and that's somehow tells of what possibly may happen. And accordingly, it seems that the regional force will possibly intervene, because according to what had been agreed is that if they do not withdraw from their positions by Friday, then the regional force will have to intervene and force them to push back or to pull back. Then we'll again look at the consistent attacks on security forces of security installments in this country, the police and armed and the military installations, and the stealing of guns. Looks like a certain group has an appetite for guns in this country. There was an attack on Nakurabye police post where an assailant fled and he left behind an AK-47 rifle with several rounds of ammunition. There was also an incident in Mbale district, Bungoko police station, where 2 guns were also stolen. I don't know what is around that number of 2. Even 2 guns stolen from Busika, 2 guns stolen from here and then in Bungoko. But Dr. Ssemwogerere Wanzara is with me in the studios. Welcome to the show and speak to our viewers.
Thank you. Good morning, viewers. It's always a pleasure being here. Apollo, good morning. Thanks for inviting me. I was laughing when you talked about number 2, but that will come later. But it's so good. I'm here with my brother. I thank him. He invited me for the Alcohol Policy Alliance conference. I was not able to go, but I'm fully behind what they are doing to ensure that there is a responsible drinking in this country.
Yeah, true. Well, welcome to the show, Richard Baguma, and welcome back from that conference.
Thank you very much. I am gratified that that my colleague Dr. Wanzara is behind our campaign. I thought the reason he had not come for the dinner was because it was alcohol free. Good morning to our viewers. As I always say, God is very great and God is very merciful. It's yet another day that we are here, and we don't take that for granted. And thank you for always inviting us, Apollo.
Thank you. How was the conference? I happened to attend.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming.
For a short period of time, but you pushed it to the end.
Yeah, I did. I was vice chair for the organizing committee for this year's alcohol policy conference. And on the numbers, it was very good. We had higher than anticipated attendance. We had more than anticipated presentations. We had more than 54 presentations for the 3 days, more than 250 people participating. We had a higher than anticipated number of members of parliament. It was very interesting to have them. We had thought that because of the Ebola scare, the people from outside, the international participants, would not come. They came. There's momentum, I think, for the cause for responsible and regulated alcohol use, and also, of course, undoing the lies of the alcohol industry that you see traditionally Africans used to drink. Traditionally Africans didn't have bars. No, commercialization of alcohol came with the colonialists. The first factory of alcohol in Africa was built, I think, in 18-something by the South African Boers. So there are all these lies. But anyway, the conference went very, very well. And what I detected, though, was this total confusion that is created by the alcohol industry's messaging, that if you reduce the consumption of alcohol, the economy will collapse. Various arguments. But anyway.
the core objective of that policy conference, tell us about
Uganda
it.
has, you see, Uganda has a national alcohol control policy. I think it was past 2018, 2019. We need to have it implemented. It's a very good policy. Government passed it, it was gazetted, it should be operational. We want it operational. So we come together to see that we operationalize it. But two, we also have a bill in Parliament, the alcohol control bill. Now, there was an earlier bill, I don't know if you remember, in the last Parliament, and the alcohol industry, with its tricks and muscle, made sure it disappeared. After the private member brought it, it disappeared. We are trying to say now, it's again a private member. The pressure is so much that government actually on its own does not bring an alcohol control bill. It has to be a private member, which for me, one, is shameful. But two, the alcohol industry has formed an association. I am told that now the association has put together more than $200,000, has also put there a high-level technical communication team to miscommunicate, disinform, and misinform about the bill. And if you see the trends, you will see that people are saying, the economy is going to collapse. Really. Total lies, but nicely packaged.
Okay.
But of course, the Banyankwere say, that however much the lies will be packaged, the truth will reveal itself.
Okay, thank you so much for that effort to cap the effect and the impact of alcohol.
And we want to save these are politicians and aspiring politicians. You know, when they go, the thing they ask them most when they are campaigning is alcohol. How can the community really who wants to benefit from their politicians that their main asking is alcohol? It's amazing.
They trade their votes for
they
alcohol.
trade even their future, their lives and everything for alcohol.
Sad. How was your week, Gerald, in just 1 minute?
My week was not bad. Nothing so significant except what's going on in Congo. The ceasefire that is not respected.
Talk about it. Go straight ahead and talk about it.
Before I got that one, there is an unfortunate incident that happened yesterday at Kawanda SES. Parents had gone to collect their children from school. As you know, it was a day for closing schools. And then, you know, the congestion at the gate. There are cars, there are motorcycles. All parents are not of the same level. Then a person who is alleged to be
He's
a
an,
UPDF.
no, it's not an
because-
allegation. He's a UPDF soldier.
Exactly, because he was driving a UPDF soldier. So I need to verify if he was a UPDF soldier. Because there are some civilians at times who drive those cars and they're not soldiers. But try to squeeze through and then was questioned because there was no space where he was going to pass. I think he responded by shooting someone who died incident, then he went on the run. I think we need to be responsible as a country. Those weapons shouldn't make us to stampede others to think that we are more important because we are all citizens of this country.
No, I want to make a comment.
Make a comment.
I have made a comment online on that one because I detect that my colleague Dr. Wanzara has already condemned and sentenced
Yeah.
the soldier. I find that very interesting. And for me, I speak from personal experience. I've told you, Apollo, I don't think I've ever told Dr. Wanzara that a group of border people, I was coming up Fairway Hotel, and they decided that they should ban me.
Really?
Yes.
Banning us. with
They came
fire.
and surrounded the vehicle, started banging it. I lowered, I was a bit confused. I lowered. They said, Tumoche. Let's ban him. So I was wondering. And so I looked at my environments. There were private guards on the opposite side, and there was a bank on this side. I reckoned going to the bank might be more difficult. So I took out the keys and the phone, handed over. So they were a bit surprised that I was handing over the keys and the phones. I slipped through their hands and went to the private guards. And then the private guards got their guns. What was it? Somebody had told them that I am a car robber. And because I was quick to get intervention from the forces. And they said it was mistaken
Really?
identity.
Mistaken identity.
Yeah, but they had decided, stop me and ban me. They had made the decision, they had taken the story as correct, they had condemned me, and they had decided on the sentence.
Mob action.
So, Dr. Wanzara, while it is unfortunate and condemnable for somebody to shoot another one and they die, I think we need to be careful about the circumstances. Apollo, if I had a gun on that day, I would have shot and they would have said, Munyankore, who is connected, who is what. No one would want to listen to what these goons were going to do to me. And I think it's important that it's very unfortunate somebody has died. It is condemnable that somebody has shot, but we must not be quick to condemn.
I called Colonel Dewa Keki, the deputy spokesperson of the UPDF, on that particular matter, and he told me about the same matter and said it was an incident. It was more of a mob surging to
know I was a victim.
The office.
For me, I was a victim. Apollo, they would.
On the highway, was it at the gate?
At the gate of the school.
No, for me, I would have been burnt. Wanzara, it doesn't matter where I was.
No,
the borders had decided, had even sentenced me to burning. So really, I am very careful.
Afande Deo was making his point that these soldiers also have sometimes act in self-defense.
No, but I would have shot. Honestly, on that day.
If he has a gun, he has to protect the gun and protect his life.
It is absolutely true, but we
so
need the police report because the statement I read from the police seems to contradict what Dewa Kiki said. So we need to get the investigations right and know what happened.
Okay. Thank you so much, and we condemn those acts of shooting, but again we also condemn acts of mob action. Those incidents of mob action. Let's go straight to Congo, where the M23 rebels have actually rejected calls for a ceasefire and now have resumed fighting. Dr. Gerard, what do you think this will culminate into, especially after this confirmation that if they violate the ceasefire agreement or the ceasefire truce, the East African Standby Force will come in and force them to withdraw from their positions?
Thanks, Apollo. I think it was early this year when we were discussing this same Congo. And our conclusion here was that we will continue talking about it,
Really?
just as we are doing it over and over again. One, I congratulate the president of Angola, Lorenzo, for taking the initiative. They call him the African Union Champion of Peace, for taking the initiative to mediate and for trying to push for that cessation of hostilities, of the ceasefire. But one problem I'm seeing in that war is that right now the M23 has tried to really position itself as a force, a credible force. And yet there are some parties in the discussion that are taking it for granted and saying we can squeeze in one day, we can do this, and yet they know the ability is not there. Actually, I remember...
they think they know that the ability is not there?
No, it's not there because there are different interests. There are different armies, okay? We signed an agreement in Nairobi, and then the Kenya took troops. But for instance, now the Kenya troops are at the airport in Goma. They cannot go beyond that because there's no peace to keep. For me, what I think is that it's high time we listen to groups like the M23. Because if a group can come and take a territory, and then you know that they control A, B, C, D, then I think they should be brought on the table. And also, the honesty of the party may be backing, the alleged country that is backing, I think has not been really hiding. It seems to be very straightforward that there are interests of that country that must be taken care of. Rwanda. So if Rwanda says it is an existential threat to Rwanda by having remnants of Interahamwe there, and then you have now a strong M23 taking control of the territory, I think it's high time all these parties are brought on the table. Otherwise, if we underplay and then we think they are too weak, they can be squeezed, all these discussions are just going to waste time.
Okay. Richard, M23, I think even this week they issued a statement calling for direct talks instead of these ceasefire, calls for ceasefire and others. But the DRC government insisted there will be no direct talks with M23. And now they are enforcing their positions with more soldiers and more weapons.
And let me start from there, Apollo. So, why wouldn't we be asking ourselves, where is M23 getting the arms and the fighters? Why wouldn't we be asking ourselves, are they foreign fighters who are fighting among the M23? Are they indigenous Congolese? Can we differentiate between the Banyamulenge or the cattle-keeping Congolese who say they are under threat with our own Kinyarwanda-speaking population in Kisoro and elsewhere, and the Nyarwandese and the ones in Burundi? Can we differentiate them? Aren't they ethnically the same people? You see, Dr. Wanzara has, if I may, hoping not to misrepresent him, has summed it up as the regional ostrich head under the sand approach. Yeah, that's the approach we are having as a country in Congo, but also as a region. We are burying our heads in the sand as ostriches do when an enemy comes. And so we must acknowledge that the group M23 exists.
Yeah.
But it is also being economical with the truth, not to highlight that there are tens of other fighting groups in Congo.
Actually, more than 100.
That, for example,
fighting groups.
For now, the fighting that the M23 is engaged in is not even with the Congolese army. No, it is with another militia So it is the way it is presented is as if the fighting is just between M23 and the Congolese army. That's not true. No, it is fighting another militia right now. That's the one they say has broken out. So you cannot even start talking about a ceasefire, which is between the M23, who is not a party to the Rwanda talks, and this other militia. These two, there is no breaking of any ceasefire. There was no ceasefire to talk about in the first instance. So for me, I think we are being economical with the truth. The second thing, and that's also what Dr. Wanzara talked about, he talked about the Kenyan soldiers. By the way, I want people to ask how many soldiers have been flown in from Kenya to Congo.
What do you think?
What can they do? They can only maintain the airport. And by the way,
but even UPDF is set to deploy to that east
as part of the
standby force.
But also that let me tell you that for us, we deployed very long ago in Congo.
But that is another operation.
So thank you very much. But it's the same army.
Yeah.
So our army is already in Congo. So if you put some additional forces under some other word, I don't know, standby force, it does not change that from being the UPDF. It's the same. It's the same army. So if you have 200 or so soldiers, by the way, let me also tell you the only reason they will keep that airport is because the M23 is being mindful of the geopolitical implications of attacking a Kenyan force. It is not that the Kenyan force is too powerful. No, these guys are only calculating what are the political implications of attacking. Otherwise, they would root them out.
But now a decision has been made that if they do not withdraw from their positions, the East African standby force will come in and force them to push or to pull out.
Yeah. We have had orders, I don't know what you call them, threats to attack, to withdraw, to defeat. Those ones have been going on. So this is yet another one.
Oh.
So we will be seeing more drama and more theater. For me,
you call it drama.
It is.
Unfolding it.
It is drama and theater. One thing that we don't talk about Apollo is the economic interests.
Oh, yeah.
The global economic interests that drive the conflict in Congo. If we really want to tackle the issues in the Congo, one, we must, as a region, accept that there is a force which has issues that must be talked to and not dismissed.
Oh.
Yes.
So you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It should be dialogue.
It exists. There is no choice. And secondly, that we must, like Webango, that there is this evil called the economic interests of the international community who are really raping the Congo and standing on the side and looking clean. We must also be blunt with them.
Okay, I think like where you started from, we expect to again come back and talk about the same matter.
Absolutely. Yeah, where is MONUC? And they in Congo. The UN forces.
Peacekeeping force.
Exactly, they're in Congo. Now, when we talk about the East African standby force, who are these ones? He talked about Uganda. We are already there. And if you look at our politics in Uganda right now, there's already a contradiction.
Yeah, but I think there's a difference between the mandates of MONUC and the East African Standby Force. The rules of engagement. I think there's a difference because this East African Standby Force, when you hear that they will now step in and force the M23 to disarm or withdraw, then possibly that is different from what.
But you remember, Paul,
peacekeeping force should be doing.
Apple, you forget that this is also.
This is not a peacekeeping force. The East African Standby Force.
Apple, you forget that there's also politics. Look at the M23 leadership, are also politicians, and they observe the politics of the region. One, when they were in Nairobi, I saw them in Nairobi early this year, when the Uhuru initiated the talks in Nairobi. And then they said, yeah, it is okay. They also signed the agreement. But what happened when they went back? because at that time they were in a slightly weaker position, so they had to go and expand what? Territory. So if you control big territory now, you are recognized as a serious party to the conflict. So it even makes it harder for you logistically, even militarily, to think you'll just go and root them out. Because they are more established, they know the terrain, they know, maybe they have the advantage of knowing the communities around there. Even they have more intelligence.
During the ceasefire talks in Rwanda, Angola, it was William Ruto, it was Felix Tshisekedi, it was Joan Lourenco, and they were asking, why are we not part
And
of
the Rwandese foreign minister. The Rwandese, you see, one of the things that was significant about Rwanda was that the Rwandese president didn't go.
Actually, wait for World Cup. He was in Qatar.
Paul Kagame?
He was
He was in
invited by
Qatar.
Qatar's government.
Was he meant to be part of
No, but you see, think about it.
Profile.
If you have a meeting of presidents, and this is supposed to be an extremely serious matter, the gentleman is in football.
Well, let's wait and for another edition of the dialogue again to talk about it. But what I'm much concerned about is the bloodshed and the influx of refugees, because anytime we'll see another influx of refugees.
No, they are coming every day.
Uganda.
Today, the refugees are coming into Uganda on a daily basis. It's just that when the numbers are in a few hundreds, we don't talk about them because we are so used. It's when they cross over to thousands now that we start talking. But every day, you have refugees coming.
Anyway, let's cross off, and I don't know if you have anything, Jared, to talk about the bilateral talks and the three-state official visit by President Museveni to Vietnam. I was looking at Vietnam as an unusual partner with Uganda, and three-state visit, and that high-powered delegation President Museveni traveled with, including Matia Kasaija, the Honorable Minister for Finance, then the Minister for Agriculture, and very high-powered delegation. President Museveni also paid homage to the Vietnamese revolutionary leader, Ho Chi Minh. I don't know if you have a comment about that, and then we come back.
Yeah, one, historically, during the Cold War, Uganda had agricultural ties with Vietnam. And actually, Vietnam came to Uganda to learn about coffee, because Uganda was a vibrant coffee exporting country, and our economy in the late 60s was the strongest in this region. So they came and borrowed from us that information. They went and replicated what we do here. And right now, Vietnam is one of the biggest coffee exporting countries in the world. And then, of course, initially it was a socialist, very strong socialist state. But over time, America, USA has courted Vietnam, and its economy has actually really expanded. And if you reached Hanoi or Hai Long Bay, the two biggest cities, they are quite modern, very modern. So I believe that Vietnam, with its growing influence in that Asia Pacific because of stability, economic progress, they have also imported all English teachers from around. That's another place where Ugandans actually are going to teach English, because China is a bit tightening now. So it's a new place which the country can exploit. For me, I saw it as a positive move for Uganda to establish strong relations with Vietnam.
Good.
Especially in agriculture, ICT, and what other sector did I see?
You talked about trade, deepening trade, ICT, and agriculture, and health.
Yes.
And health.
It's a good move. For me, I support it 100%.
Okay. Richard, just a comment. Uganda, the trade balance with Uganda and Vietnam, we export only goods worth 9.3 million US dollars, and we import goods worth 49.2 million US dollars from Vietnam. And talk about the bilateral talks.
No, I think
three-state visit.
No, I think one is we we are not just as a country, but I think as a region, Eastern and then Africa, we are starting to more and more look at our non-traditional trade partners because of the challenges we are having with the West.
Okay.
The human rights, the push for LGBT, and all these demands. And that is even more for our country because of the push. They are openly, really hostile to our leadership. They have stayed for too long. It's not democratic, human rights. They are openly embracing the opposition. Even, you know, some of them in Tatars, they are given VIP treatment. So as a leader, I think as a leadership, I think President Museveni is also looking at more and more safety nets and where do you go. So while partly it's strategic because of the historical relations, it is also looking at the potential, especially in view of the increasing hostility from our traditional. Yeah, the potential. Yes, there is absolutely potential. Because also of the open hostility that we are having. Secondly, the Vietnamese have also increased their dealing with the West, particularly the Americans. They have improved. So you can have some diplomatic dividends by opening up those channels. 3, China is closing a bit. Now, one of the things that we're doing, including that are illegal, is having the flows. Even some of the money we are looting here, we take it to China, then we launder it, we clean it, we wash it. So I think Vietnam is going to be one important center that we will be doing that, having all these trades. Yes, it's part of the economic things that happen. It's part of the reality that we need to talk about. But also, I think the individual efforts of the Council General, what do you call them? The one who has because it's not an ambassador here. It's, I think, the Council General, the one who is in charge of the consulate. The Ugandan, I think he's Majambere. I think he's been also personally extremely pushy and active on this front of increasing our ties. So there are a couple of things that we can mutually benefit from each other.
Okay.
And that's why if you see the delegation, you are looking at the political delegation. I am looking more at the technical delegation. There was a strong technical delegation that is geared towards investment, that is geared towards trade and exportation. So you can see, I think there are those many strings that kind of compel us to get into this relationship. And I think one of the ideas that President Museveni is going to pick is also to prepare to have a great mausoleum in his honor and memory.
No.
Yeah, I think that's one of the ideas. I don't call it an investment.
I like the fact that you two have agreed that there is potential and there is a benefit we expect from the bilateral ties between Uganda and Vietnam,
and
especially in agriculture, and agriculture, trade and health.
Yes.
I think that is a positive move. How did you, Dr. Gerard, forget to talk about the diplomatic and the strings that we suspect the president is trying to avoid, the strings attached to the European and the US relations?
You see, like, let me take the example of trade. The South-North trade, that's like developing world and then the developed world. You can have like a ESC, EU partnership agreement on trade, but with so many restrictions on quality. When you take something there, maybe your maize, it may be stuck at the port and eventually will dispose it off because of the way they will claim we are not drying it properly, it is carrying cancer.
So you think like Vietnam and other those countries
trade with our own almost equal partners has proved to be more profitable. Just look at before the war broke out in South Sudan. Our trade had grown to about $350 million per annum. And what were we taking? Mokene, tomatoes, eggs, and so forth. And you know, it's not far. No one will disturb you about the you know, a lot of restrictions. You know how hard it is to export beef to, say, the Chinese market? It is very hard. You have to be certified by the Bureau of Standards. Then they have to come and inspect how you slaughter these cows, how you keep the meat. But Southern Sudan or Congo or Vietnam may not ask for all of that.
So, but do you think this move is sustainable to switch from these big big powers and then we look for...
But President Museveni has not abandoned the big powers. Just recently you saw Lavrov here.
Oh,
from Russia.
But Russia, you know how Russia has its own issues with,
exactly,
with the West.
But he's still negotiating. Have they ever stopped AGOA, Africa Growth Opportunity Act? Uganda is still a beneficiary. The Susan Muhwezis and others are still exporting flowers there, crafts and datashas and so forth. So it has never stopped. I think it's just looking for, and you know, when the economy is struggling like it's doing with very poor balance of payment account and so forth, you need to be creative, look for new markets where you can probably cover the gap, the deficit.
Richard, so we are now looking for we are being creative as a government and trying to fix the gaps in the economy.
Yeah, for me, I think where you import 40
only
million.
49.
49, yes.
Million,
And you have, I mean, a difference of in percentage terms. We are probably what, close to 20% of so you see the potential exists. The fact that you have in between us a $60 million, you know, trade, but they are at 50, we are at 10 or so. It tells us that yes, that there is a big deficit. So can we, but also that the potential that we have. But you see, like those other dividends that are diplomatic, but also the economic, particularly because you see, individuals here have really accumulated a lot of wealth. So really people are looking for economies that are not so tightly controlled that we can start doing business with. So I can promise that we are going to start seeing Vietnamese investors
coming here.
But when we see, we'll know that behind it will be Ugandans with their money, bringing some Vietnamese faces and some Vietnamese registered companies to start factories here.
That is unfortunate then.
Well, I'm not sure that it is that unfortunate, because otherwise they would be taking the money out. You'd see it in Dar es Salaam and Zanzibar and wherever. So because it's stolen anyway, it's already stolen or it's going to be stolen. So I am not sure that I would want them to take it to Nairobi. I would rather have some Vietnamese faces here with Ugandan owners behind, and they can employ some people, because the stealing already has happened anyway.
Those are suspicions, Bakuma. You are just being just suspicious, and
yeah. And for me, I am stating my suspicions. Bring that one who will contradict me.
All right, viewers, we'll go for a short break, and this is the dialogue. When we return, we'll look at the drama that unfolded at the burial of the former President General for the Democratic Party, Dr. Ssemwogerere, who's laid to rest this Monday in Nkumba, Entebbe, and the pull and push around whether he should be accorded state burial or official burial. Then and finally it was more like a state burial with a 17-gun salute. And again, we have also to look at the persistent attack and attacks on security installations. And like I said, the growing appetite for guns in this country. Who are these people behind the stealing of guns, and for what reason are they stealing these guns? We'll talk about all that and much more in the next hour. We're going for a break, and we'll be returning after a short while. Welcome from the break. This is the dialogue. My name is Simapolo, and now we open up the second hour of the program. We can inform you that you can also participate in the discussions by sending your SMS or WhatsApp message on 0701 609906. 0701 609906. Be part of this discussion going on in the studios with Dr. Gerard Wanzala and Richard Baguma Tinkasimire on the panel this morning, looking at issues happening in the country and across the region. Away from what is happening in Congo, away from the 3-day state visit by President Museveni and the delegation from Uganda in Vietnam, let's come back and look at what happened in Nkumba at the burial of the former DP President General Paul Kawanga Ssemwogerere, who died at the age of 90 and was buried on Monday. Specifically, we'll be looking at the disagreement and the forceful as the forceful means that the state used to take over the burial as an official burial, when actually, according to the widow, Dr. Paul Kawanga Ssemwogerere had put it in his will that he does not want, he actually would wish to have a moderate send-off without those official state honors, the gun salute and everything. But it ended up, it all happened. You can say almost all happened, and it was an official burial, which was accorded to Dr. Paul Kawanga Ssemwogerere. And I will start with Richard Baguma. What do you make of that disagreement? The chief mourner, who was expected to be His Excellency the President, but was represented by the Prime Minister, Right Honorable Robin Nabanja, said that according to the Constitution, an official at that level of the Prime Minister must, according to the Constitution, must be accorded an official burial with the 17-gun salute, and the guns were fired.
Now, I don't think that would have happened for Dr. Kizza Besigye. I don't think that if it was Dr. Kizza Besigye, they would take the 17-gun salute. I don't think so. Okay, so a couple of things. One is that it became a contestation. Now, when you think about President Museveni, when you start a contestation, then he will do everything to win it.
That's actually President Museveni directed, according to
once you start a contestation,
Prime Minister Robin Nabanja. President Museveni directed.
He directed all organs of state that must work. So once there is a contestation, he has to work very hard to win it. Anyway, that's one. Whether you are following the Constitution or not, that's one. So I think that played a part. I think the second thing was President General Kawanga Ssemwogerere. His wish not to have this was a protest.
Oh.
Yes. I think it was a protest at how he was treated or how the things were running. So it's like when you have a protest on the street, they will tear gas you. So look at the forceful state funeral as tear gas. That protest must be dispersed, whoever is behind it. So that for me is related. The third thing is that...
Wait a minute. People who spoke about Dr. Paul Kawanga Ssemwogerere spoke about him as a person who didn't like to live a lavish lifestyle, and from that matter specifically, they also said that he wished that even in his death, let it be a moderate send-off, not as you just said that it was a protest, that it was from his wishes. He wished for a moderate life, and he lived a moderate life.
Yeah, and let's take that. If you want to be president, how moderate is that? How moderate is that life where you want to be the leader of the entire country? What is in moderation about that? You are seeking the very highest office more than once and that is moderate. So I think we also have to think about this. The other thing is that you see, the more the monkey or the baboon climbs, the more it exposes its behind. Its behind is no longer a private matter now. It becomes a public matter. But also, if you look, because Dr. Paul Kawanga Ssemwogerere is just a politician. I think for me, it is futile to expect that his burial would not be political, that it would be anything but political. I want you to look at the profile of the speakers. What relationship of any kind does Robert Kyagulanyi have with Dr. Paul Kawanga Ssemwogerere? Why would he be one of those ones lined up to speak? But on the other side, why not? Because he's now
de facto leader of opposition.
he's just a leading, he shares the views with Dr. Ssemwogerere on removing Yoweri Museveni. So it had to be political. And so if it becomes political, that it became, then the politicians in power did not want to allow to be accused of having neglected, having not. I think
but now they are being accused of hijacking.
Yes, and they were prepared for that, I am very sure.
The burial.
I am very sure they were prepared for that. I would like to believe that that is an accusation they weighed. In my mind, there must have been strategic meetings and discussions, and they said, no, we must go. But also this speaks to something. If we now have a law on medals, you see, we also used to have total confusion, we still have it, about who gets a medal. That if you were a very powerful UPC person, whatever your contribution, you won't get a medal until you say you are sympathetic to the NRM.
But now there is a committee, the honor.
Yeah, but how does the committee behave?
That sits
how balanced is that committee? So, but I still think that even like that one, we need very clear legal guidelines. We need a legal framework for who gets now a deputy prime minister, a minister of foreign affairs, a minister of internal affairs, a leader of the opposition, I think Dr. Ssemwogerere merited. Of course, we should put into consideration the wishes of the person who has died. But I think we should have a legal framework to say, even if this is your wish, it is illegal. We shall bury you officially. I think we should have a legal framework.
Okay. Dr. Gerard, right from church, from the Requiem Mass, the people who, the pallbearers were police in uniform. You could see that it was a state burial. What missed possibly would be laying in state, in parliament, and maybe having an official ceremony at Kororo, but it was all like an official burial. What do you make of this disagreement?
Like he's saying,
against the wishes of the family,
there is kind of confusion. First of all, sometimes they say there is this state burial in the constitution, where they say the speaker, the president, the vice president. Then sometimes they just say official. So the law needs to clearly state what is official burial and what's the state burial. But also, when I look at his wish to be given a simple, modest send-off. First of all, I may ask a question. Did he have his personal resources? When I looked at the life he lives, it was a simple home and so forth, meaning that maybe when he was in the office, he did not accumulate a lot of money. But if you had given it to him, probably he would have wanted it. But the whole thing of forcing the official burial on him was, of course, political. Because it was a high-profile political burial, you would expect opposition. And the other factor is, he's in the region, which now I'm calling a Gaza Strip. In Palestine, Gaza Strip. There is a lot of, there's something going on in Uganda that needs to be handled, whereby every burial you are seeing a lot of anger, people speaking with, you know, and also the opposition has decided, because they are not allowed to hold normal rallies, maybe to recruit members, raise funds, fundraisings. Now, I think they have turned the barriers into the smallest unit where they can penetrate the community. So we expected that contest, and actually it happened. For me, it was not a surprise, because you saw what happened at Majambe, at Haji Naduli's home. And there are many other, you saw what happened in Masaka when they were burying Lord Mayor's father. So barriers have become a serious political kind of gathering. But like he said, we need to streamline issues of barriers. So it doesn't appear like it's a token of appreciation from the head of state. As I talk right now, we lost this week a very important person in Mugisu, former Minister Masete Kuya. He was in charge of post-war rehabilitation in Obote too, and he impacted this country a lot in terms of schools, rebuilding schools, health centers. The Busolwes and others, some are very rotten now. I went to Busolwe, I did not find mattresses on beds, and patients are just sleeping on the spring.
So you think he deserved an official
now
burial?
The parliament, through Speaker Among, Anita Among, I saw her telling them to observe a moment of silence. But there is also pressure in Bugisu that we should also honor this person, because he went to Nairobi University, where he has been lecturing all this time. It's where he died from. And Bugisu people specifically see, when they look at the Mbale Municipal Stadium, it was his initiative, 1985. So he was also my father's friend during that period when I was young, and my mother used to cook for them. So so every group will come up and say, we want a state bar, we want a state bar, we want a state bar. We need to streamline this. But
do you think Dr. Paul Ssemwogerere deserved an official and all-state burial?
I think he did deserve his contribution to the politics of Uganda. We cannot downplay it. Looking at his history, working with Ben Chiwanuka, his contest, by the way, contesting at such a high level, okay, 1980, almost coming close to winning, and then you lose. Like now, Dr. Besigye, there are people who look at Dr. Besigye, you frowning upon him, but I would respect him, because
you hinted, you said in 1980 he was close to winning.
Yeah, he was close to winning, but I am convicted to say that he did not win the 1980
that's what I wanted.
Yes, because now it's like right now, there are people who believe that Chagulanyi won elections. But if you look at the mathematics, it's not practical.
Okay.
It's not practical. Maybe the process, if someone condemns the process, that without ABCD he would have won. But if you say he won, no, that one we can debate.
So you think he deserved the 17-gun salute? He deserved even much more than
he did, but only that this thing looked very ugly. You know, when the family says we don't want, then you force upon them, and then you go and begin exchanging words at the burial. I think it never looked smart. But NRM is a ruling. The NR is a ruling government, and they know Uganda has become hostile, and therefore as a government they are going to continue trying to work very hard to see that at least they win even the smallest fraction they can from Uganda. First, because Uganda is very significant, centrally located, near the seat of power. You cannot just wish away. Even when people rejected the Uganda, you know, established politicians we knew, the Amelia Chambades, the Chivoga lady, that is Honorable Vince of Energy, Nankabirwa, Muyingo, this one Rakai. So he brought them in cabinet, not for fun, but he thinks they can have some resources and still have influence, and probably they can harvest 1 or 2 seats here and still help the NRM to consolidate power.
Okay, Richard, finally, do you also agree with Dr. Gerard Wanzara that even when Dr. Paul Ssemwogerere deserved an official burial, government also exploited that moment to suppress the urge for members of the opposition to use such a platforms to push their message out and possibly address the members of the public.
Yes. I think one of the most important, if not the most important gathering for people, particularly in the central region of Uganda, is around the funeral. Yes. People who have never been in touch for decades, people who have never visited the place and it has become bushy and everything, they will all gather, they will all contribute, they will all be touched. And I think because of the narrowing space available to the voices that are unhappy with President Museveni and the establishment, have found a kind of there's some kind of religious element about funerals, particularly in this region. So they have found a near religious place, a place where even the authority in their most callous character are careful not to violate. Yes. And so where else can they go to talk? It has become the platform. But that is combined with the fact that the structures, the leadership structures generally in the central region now, in Uganda region particularly, even the lower and the MPs and the district are also largely those voices who are against President Museveni and his group. So you expect that the speeches will generally be politically toxic towards the President Museveni and his establishment. So you have to look for a way of being part of the mix so that you can also propagate your message there and not allow a free flow and unfettered access to all these people who come. And you see, it's like also, that's why I said there is some religious element. Because you see in the religious gatherings, people pay attention and there is a certain way of absorbing the messages. So the funerals here also are just about the same. People have a certain element of absorbing the messages. So you can see that the yellow people, the yellow color people are struggling to be part of the mix so that they can also propagate their messages in those in those spaces.
So what should we expect? Should we see more?
Oh yes, more contested funeral spaces. Of course, because they are political rallies now, like Dr. Wanzara says. They are political spaces, they are political rallies. So you expect contestation there. That's why I said that for you to say you will not come to bury here, you are the same as the one who is protesting in Owino and you'll beat your gas.
I remember when we were discussing the incidents that happened at Jakana Naduli's funeral, and someone suggested that at one point we'll see roadblocks to funerals mounted to when there is a funeral, and you will see, I mean, funerals involving big people, maybe big politicians, and we'll see security mounting roadblocks. I mean, sieving, looking at you may cause havoc at the funeral. You are not allowed to attend this and that. I don't know how we can sanitize the situation.
No, the only way, the only way is to give some space.
Because I don't think that by government now coming in to take over a funeral of a big person like the late Dr. Ssemwogerere will actually make a difference, because many more people will die, and the politicians, especially the opposition, will want to use that opportunity to air out their political views and opinions. And how can we strike a balance and possibly sanitize this situation?
Yeah, but why are people behaving like this? They haven't been behaving like this in the past. So we must be honest with ourselves. Look at the reasons. People must have some breathing space. Yes, people must have some economic breathing space. I'm not just talking about political. I'm talking about some economic breathing space. You see, this small community of people that have weaved themselves and strangled the opportunities or economic opportunities. It's really a strangle. They have a strangle around the economy, and the opportunities must come to this it's quite small and networked group of people. So that's strangling, and then people start expressing themselves against that in political ways. So you go out, you strangle them in the economic space, and you squeeze them continuously and very callously. And then you follow them in the political space because they are expressing themselves. So it's not possible to keep them. Yes, unless you start behaving like in a genocidal way, almost. So you have to have then the killings and the arrests and create all this kind of problem. So allowing, relaxing a bit the strangle, and dealing with the massive looting, this individualized looting, investing in these people a little bit more, I think then will ease the pressure on this side.
Okay, Dr. Gerard, what can be your recommendations on how these contestations can be avoided as the opposition look at barriers of these VIPs as a space for airing their views, and now even the state is coming in to block that space?
I think he has made very excellent recommendations, easing the pressure. For us at the Africa Leadership Institute, we say that the bottleneck is always at the top of the bottle. So if you look at the soda bottle, okay, you look at the bottom is here, but there's that, you know. So if we don't loosen that, and then the leadership gets a connection with the people and have the feeling of what the other people at the bottom are feeling, then it will not ease the pressure. That pressure will continue. And maybe to remind the viewers, it's now spreading. I don't know where the UPC last held a rally in Ntungamo, but when the Honorable Yona Kanyomozi passed on in Ntungamo, it became a political rally
for them to
speak. UPC, there was
FDC.
NT, FDC, and everybody, you know.
For me, what shocked me was that people still had T-shirts.
Actually, the red T-shirts came out.
That was very shocking.
They even sang slogans of
Exactly,
T-shirts.
because those who are scared of maybe the first lady in Ntungamo, scared of what, but at the battle they say, we have come to mourn. You will even look really ugly to beat them.
So we should open space for those chanting and slogans
people talk, you know,
of political parties to.
Of course, we need to regulate so that others do not stampede others. Like now, there are some mobs actually, social media, where who have no discipline. They are there. I will not mention, but it's happening across the political spectrum. There are people who are intolerant across different political parties. Those must be regulated. But in terms of political participation, people's participation in democratic processes, I think we need to loosen a bit. Because when people are organized under the institutions, you know, like I saw the FDC holding their national council this week for 2 days, and they announcing a delegates conference. I think that's okay because they're doing it in the open. And they are registered a political party. Now, if you squeeze, people go underground. And actually, the results of those underground contestations will manifest at barriers. And eventually, will not like the results. I'll give an example. When people were killed here during the uprising, November 2020.
Actually, let me remind you, this week, I think it marked a year since we had riots in Kampala of 18th and 19th November, and the National Platform members converged at their headquarters in, was it in Kamocha, to mark that day because many of their members lost lives in that riot.
Yes.
But there was tear gas. They were tear gassed, and
that is the pressure we are talking about.
It was really chaos.
Because if you cannot open a political office, you cannot hold a fundraising function for a registered political party. If you cannot hold a rally, okay, then what are you going to do? If you are tear gassed even at your party headquarters. There's an incident that happened, I think following 2016 elections. I was out of Uganda. And then I think Anajana Nkumbi, I think it was raided with a helicopter on the top. Actually, it appeared like it was a war zone. The late Kawesi, I think, commanded, and then the breaking of the doors, carrying of the computers. It was so ugly. So what we are saying is that if we squeeze, I was giving an example before you diverted me. November, days following November 2020, 19th and 18th, the few days following, we saw dead bodies to Masaka, to Luwero, and then the priests were talking with a lot of anger, the residents, and then you saw the results in elections in Uganda. Now, some cities, some districts, people are really regretting that we voted out of anger, but are these the right people? So, if you can, instead of squeezing more, there are a few people you can pick back who may know, oh, maybe the wave alone cannot solve our problems.
Okay. Well, viewers, this is Sol TV and the program is The Dialogue. My name is Prince Apollo. We can now take your comments on 0701 609906. That number will be running on your screen, 0701 609906. Make your case and send your comments via WhatsApp and SMS, short messaging. Tell us what you think about the topics that are being discussed in the studios. And we are calling for a streamline of those guidelines, on those guidelines for who should be accorded as an official or state burial. And possibly that could save the day. You agree that the guidelines are not clear?
The guidelines are not clear. Right now what we see is that actually even the media has copied what the politicians say. As a President Museveni gives so and so a state burial. So it has become
because
like
every
a personal...
time
It's a donation.
donation.
Every time an official, a very important person passes on, then there's a communication that comes saying he will be accorded a state burial. This one will be accorded a state burial, an official burial. I don't know if it is just for purposes of information or it is for purposes of communicating a directive. I'm not sure about that.
If you have it within the legal framework that we know this office, from this office to this office, will be accorded a state burial, then we shall know also the law should be clear starting when the law should take effect. Because there are people up to now are saying even families of, I saw it recently and I laughed, families of presidents of long ago, so like the families now should also be given benefits at this time. So if we have the legal framework, it is good for planning purposes. You know that we have this budget in a year. If it is so and so dies, then we shall spend this much. If we fail, if we have not spent all this, the money can go back to the consolidated fund. For me, that is what I would actually do recommend.
Okay. We'll be
but also, you see,
make it.
If you don't promote democracy, you actually build the case for mobocracy.
Oh.
So every time you are strangling democracy, you keep creating a case. You actually fuel mobocracy. Because people always have to express themselves.
So you're saying it's not sustainable for government to come and take over burials. I mean, if the intention is to stop these people from speaking.
Yeah, but you see, there are certain things that are sustained at an extremely costly price. Extremely costly. The other time I was talking to someone, I said, no, NC Egura Mirambo. I said, yes, NC Egura Mirambo, ngatemuri gwa wo. It is okay to say, oh no, they will die, we can bury them, we can ignore them until it comes to your doorstep. The thing is, the cost to the society is high. And we have not seen it go down. No, we have seen it go higher. If people are talking about economic hard times. People don't relate the raiding of our coffers.
Oh, yeah.
For buying certain items. Yeah, certain riot gear in preparation, certain types of ammunition, and the cost it does. You raid our forex reserves for that. People don't relate this. But certainly you cannot divorce the current economic challenges from our political and security issues. And this strangle can only keep this challenge going. Yeah, and so yes, we will lose Buganda and Busoga. Now, another region may add, and that increases contestation and the price to us.
Okay, viewers, we will be moving on to another sensitive topic about security. But let me look at these comments. Thanks for the show. My name is Apostle Stephen Kakaire from Bulenga. May God bless you. He's watching. Thank you so much, Apostle Stephen Kakaire. Another one is Solomon. Solomon said, thank you so much for the show. I think we need a clear policy on who should be given a state burial. I think we have, from what the Right Honorable Nabanja said, there is something about who should be accorded the state burial in the Constitution. He related to the fact that Dr. Dr Ssemwogerere was at the level of the Prime Minister because he served as the first Deputy Prime Minister, that he should have been actually given.
But if it was in the law, there wouldn't even be those justifications. He would just look at section.
I think it is because of the will. I mean, the Dr. Ssemwogerere left behind, saying he.
No, I'm not relating to Dr. Kawanga Ssemwogerere. I'm relating to what Dr. Wanzara has been saying. Now the Bagisu are saying, if the president is donating funerals, let him donate also to our son.
Actually.
So you would be saying, no, section this and that of the law doesn't allow or allows.
But
that's
again,
the confusion.
But again,
so we can still have a law that allows the president to donate these funerals whenever he wants, but to be very clear about who gets them. The law may not take the donation capacity from him, but let's really minimize the confusion.
But again, Doctor and Richard, I imagine if the reason was to stop the opposition from turning Dr. Paul Kawanga Ssemwogerere's burial into a political platform, then if there is, if in absence of such a guidelines, a time will come when someone who is actually vocal and who they suspect would attract those political, pundits to come and speak on his or her burial, but he does not deserve or she does not deserve an official burial, we will see the state coming in and according them such a burial just for the sake of stopping the opposition from.
Yeah, maybe you will have Sipapa at the height of his, I don't know, contribution, whatever it was, getting an official burial.
An official burial just to stop.
But for me, is, you see, when you have a clear legal framework, even the one who is responsible for these burials, it's the minister for the presidency, can also even include it in the budget, so that you don't have to get it from some classified budget of State House or wherever. I think for me, even the family will even be prepared that once our mother or father rises to this level, then what can we do? He has already, or she has already put herself directly in the privileges, the same as bodyguards and money and first class travel, the same, even in death, this person will have this as their package.
Thanks.
The Emorimori or the Emorimori of Teso was given a gun salute and a state funeral.
Yeah.
And then Bob Mushikori, the Umukuka Mbale, was just sent money. They just sent money for the gun. So
It's not clear.
it's not clear.
Okay, thanks for the program and thanks to the panelists. The issue of insecurity should be addressed. I think now he preempts our second topic. Government has not come out with a report on series of police attacks. What's the challenge? Is intelligence working, or it's internal sabotage, or collapsing of the movement? He's Bienyaro Moses. And thank you so much, Moses, for that. We are coming to that right now. And another one, but he is not, let me say, he's Nwasa Sira Wilba. And Wilba said, thank you so much for the show. He thanks us, he is appreciative of what we are doing. Let's get straight to the issue of security, gentlemen. It is becoming serious. In this week, like I highlighted in the beginning, an attack on Nakulabye police station. Luckily, an assailant the attack was foiled, and an assault rifle was recovered as the assailant fled. We didn't lose a gun. We actually recovered a gun. And where did it come from? We don't know. Maybe. And an attack, no, it's not an attack. In Bungo Kumbale, police lost 2 guns. And I think Dr. Girard will also be addressing the issue of number two guns are being lost almost every attack happens.
Apple, I think you have told the viewers properly, explained the number of attacks or no attacks and the magic figure of 2 guns. But when I observed the speeches from the leaders in Bongoko and so forth, they were saying this particular police station, the officers are always either drinking marwa, they all leave the station at the same time, and then they go to drink marwa, sometimes to be under, like, I think on that day they disappeared early because of the World Cup season.
Oh.
Yeah, the residents were saying sometimes they get criminals and then they walk with them to the police. Then they find the police station locked.
That is,
and all officers
and the seriousness of the highest
So
order.
I am wondering, such a place, given the information moving around, already in Usika, there is Kensington, Nakulabye, and then I, a responsible officer, manning a police station, leave a police station without any security. And actually it raises now the question whether that magic figure of 2 guns is true. Because if these fellows are able to break into the armory, just collect the guns without even shooting a single bullet and go away, then it raises so many questions.
I have now recorded that even last night we received reports that in there is a forest, that forest in Chikube, Bugoma forest. A gun also was stolen from an officer, a security officer there. Another gun was stolen.
Actually, in Ichireka here, it was stolen in the barracks. But lucky enough, when they were chasing, I think either the criminals got an accident or something. So one was admitted in Naguru hospital. So on hearing of that, someone was running and then getting an accident, and then the hospital people reported, and that's how they came and found this criminal here who led them to trace where the gun was hidden. So if it has happened again in the forest, Bugoma forest, I think the police needs to raise their security levels.
Okay, Richard. Every time an incident happens, the statement comes out like, thugs have raided. The thugs have raided. As a communication specialist, and are they mere thugs? Are they thugs? Is this group that is much more interested in guns thugs, really?
In 1982, I still keep the recording of that interview. There was a BBC journalist called Robin White. I used to love his interviews. I think I was in primary school or something. My father used to put on the radio.
That's when you started admiring.
Oh yeah, I think that's when my father, when I think about it, I think my father introduced journalism into us. And Robin White was interviewing Dr. Milton Obote, president. And Dr. Obote was saying Museveni and his bandits.
Bandits. That was the word.
These bandits. And he asked him why I remember. Is your name is Robin? I said, do you know Robin Hood? Have you ever read about Robin Hood? Later on, I went to read about Robin Hood. I said, he's a bandit. Like that one. When you are not in power and you are seeking to do things, then they become illegal. So you are a thug. It doesn't matter what agenda you are pursuing. It may be a good agenda, but because legally, yes, there is the one who is in power, then you are labeled a thug. So yes, to that extent, they are thugs. But I understand your question. Your question is, are they lumpens? I understand. I'm relating. Are they just lumpens, or are they seeking through armed means to establish an alternative leadership? Yes, and therefore, when there are when the objectives of a group are considered noble, then the title of thuggery does not seem to fit them. You see, when you had religious wars, of course, the one part of the religion which was contesting with the other, they were considered thugs and treated as such. So yes, I understand. Now, there is a pattern of a group that is taking guns. Yes, that is specifically targeting, taking arms and ammunition. We have had this before, including that the current leadership employed the same tactics to get where they are. So it is possible, and we have been told by the people in security and speaking in parliament, but also speaking to the media, that this is a rebel group. But you see, crime around guns in this country is not just that. We also know, for example, in Karamoja, we have the groups who are called warriors and raiders, and they are also going for guns. So, are they in any way connected to this group or not? That's one. The other thing, and that's what I've been saying, is the mistrust that people have in government. That it becomes hard to mobilize the populace to be part of your cause, because you have also been deploying quote-unquote thugs to do things that are considered thuggery in the public eyes, and then they come out to be official. That you have guys with slippers and with the latest weaponry abducting citizens, many of whom, if you called them to police, they would come by themselves. So this behavior, quote-unquote thuggery of the official security organs, and now the thuggery focused on the security organs, sometimes becomes blurred. And that's the example I was giving of the young man would read about, who was crying wolf, wolf every time he would take sheep to graze. When the actual wolf came, the people were tired of his pranks, and they did not go. So
So it is not right to keep on labeling them thugs. There should be clarity. Is it what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is that even when you say they are not thugs, you still have a lot of skeptics looking at you. Because the other day you were the one who deployed people who appeared like thugs. And when people came running to you, you said, no, those are my people. So there is now that distrust that is embedded, that creates a problem for the security agencies when they are fighting this kind of problem. Because sometimes they also have behaved like these people. So it's a big problem. Now, a lot of people, when you discuss with a lot of elite guys, they tell you if they are civilian dressed, even in tatters or whatever, grabbing somebody in a jam, they don't want to interfere because they suspect that it is the security forces which are doing this. So you can imagine what kind of thuggery this kind of approach can promote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Finally, we have only 3 minutes or 4 minutes. Gerard, in just 2 minutes, also talk about the same thing. We have had security come out and declare that there are new rebel groups actually in central region here, where these incidents have been rife of attacks on
security. That is Zimbabwe central region.
Okay, but that is the still.
Yeah.
And again, there is this group and incidents with a high affinity for guns. Is it time, possibly you think, there should be clarity, and we know that we have a problem in our midst, instead of keeping on calling them thugs every time there is an attack?
I think in security, that is a language and sometimes you use to undermine, the group and portray them as small or useless.
The other time they were bandits.
Can be squeezed any time. So it's a language that is always used. He talked about Dr. Obot addressing the NRA. He said, those are bandits. We shall, actually they are just scouts. We shall follow them
and leave
them there. So there are these statements sometimes we make. But one thing that police came out and told us is that there is a rebel group. Actually, I saw this week Parliament asking the minister to come back and then with the report, who are these? But if the police say these are rebels, probably it's the same statement that I would expect next week from General Otafide in Parliament.
He may tell us they are rebels, or what did you think? Most
likely, because the police are under Ministry of Internal Affairs, and they issued a statement saying these are rebels, and they mentioned the name of the rebel group. But one thing that we have to bear in mind, as I conclude, is that various studies, people don't believe in research, but research talks. The degree of trust between the leadership and the population has really diminished. It is very low, that only 29% of Ugandans trust a word from their member of parliament. And then only 32%, that's Afrobarometer, trust what their president is saying. It's like that when you say something, they will say, we are Ulimba. It's a lie. They will not believe. So this trust does not just come out of the blue. And it will not come with this money we parade. Like I saw 170 million being paraded for UNSA at the NRM chairman's office in Chambo.
National Students Association.
Yes, when we were in UNSA, we had a bank account. The government would give us money, but it goes to the account, then we are taught how to account for the money. But we are giving students cash in a sack, and they are clapping, smiling, preparing their mouths how they are going to share this money.
I am Karule John from Kayunga. Let the UPDF recall all retired and deserters who are not yet above 55 years of age back into the force. We have to be careful with what that big group to our security, may do to our security. Thank you so much. Karule is proposing that maybe we should reinforce our security forces for possibly to counteract these attacks. And this one says state barriers are a wastage of taxpayers' money, and he's Isa in Kampala. I don't know, but our time is running out. I don't know if you can. Briefly.
We have already said we should have a clear guidelines.
Yes.
Not only on state barriers, even who received medals, like he said. Because actually medals have become worthless. I'm moving everywhere. I see people wearing medals they received from the government. So there are a number of areas that we need to streamline.
We have to wind up in just 1 minute. I haven't seen the president coming out with an address on security even from Busika, you remember, when he came, he addressed issues of Ebola, not on security. As you conclude.
I think for me what is very sad is that the high levels of generalized insecurity,
1 minute, please.
yes, that is targeting the civilians, is now being ignored because of the dramatic news headlines of attacking those who should be protecting the civilians. The generalized insecurity on civilians has not gone down. And so you'll have insecurity on civilians and now insecurity on security installations. And His Excellency the President will come and probably call them jiggers. And yeah. I mean, this we have had this talk. However, we are paying a price. And that price can turn things around.
Thank you. Should we expect a presidential address soon on security?
Yeah, I expect it will be coming very soon. Maybe because there are a lot of counterintelligence groups, ESO, you know, SIB, and others, the crime intelligence or police. So as a president, probably still analyzing all these reports.
Do you expect what Baguma said, calling them jiggers or what, or goons?
We have always done so, and it will continue.
Thank you so much, our viewers, and we'll catch up again next Saturday. This edition of The Dialogue ends here. We thank you so much for being a great audience out there. Thank you so much to those who sent in their comments. Some of them we could not address them, but we'll be doing that next week. My name is Principal. I have to thank Dr. Ssemwogerere Wanzala. Thank you so much for coming. And Richard Baguma Tinkasimile, thank you so much for being in that seat, and we expect you again and again. I must say, great weekend and a good week ahead. Good afternoon.
Don't drink and overdrink, please. Okay. Keep alive.
Bye-bye.